It is time for our very first conversation tonight on GBV Tuesday. We move beyond statistics and headlines and we ask, what does real support actually look like for survivors of gender-based violence? Because awareness is not enough. Campaigns are not enough. Survivors need trauma-informed care, ethical systems, and professionals who understand both the psychological scars and the social realities of abuse. Now, joining us is Hendriettah Khupe, Chief Social Worker at Lifeline Mental and Emotional Health for All. With over 16 years' experience in psychosocial services, she leads teams, strengthens service delivery, and oversees programs that respond directly to gender-based violence and mental health crises across South Africa. Tonight, we unpack how GBV intersects with mental health and how Stop Gender-Based Violence Helpline operates nationally. And this is in the context of South Africa. Hendriettah, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to African Diaries.
Thank you.
Now, you've worked in the social services space for over 16 years. What does GBV actually do to someone's mental health, emotional health? For those who are thinking, yes, we've seen the publicized elements of GBV, but what are some of the intricacies that you can tell us about?
Thank you for having me on the show. And I am Hendriettah Khupe, the Chief Social Worker for Lifeline South Africa, as introduced. One of the services that we're dealing with is issues of gender-based violence. And I'm sure you're all aware that gender-based violence has been termed a national pandemic within our country. So therefore, it means it has got long-lasting effects on either survivors or victims of it. And these scars go beyond the physical scars that are evident in the survivors. It affects a person's emotional capacity. It affects your mental well-being. It affects you psychologically. Actually, it breaks down a human being in all aspects of his normal or her normal functioning.
Hendriettah, that's quite a statement. It breaks down all aspects of your ability to function. What are some of the things you will notice? Right. And I'm asking this question because perhaps somebody has gone through an experience of GBV and they think they're okay. However, there are parts of their lives that are disintegrating and they don't realize that this is because of the trauma that comes from there. What are some of the signs and symptoms?
Okay. Signs and symptoms are vast and they vary from one individual to the other. So for those who have suffered physical abuse, definitely the signs and symptoms are evident in a person's physiology. So you're able to see the scars in places that are visible. You are able to literally see the scratches. You'll be able to see the blue eyes, and whatever marks that the perpetrator would have left on the victim or the survivor. However, there are deeper scars that sometimes cannot be evident and that you cannot pick with your literal eye. And these are the emotional scars that a victim would have incurred because of the consistent abuse that they'll be subjected to. So you will realize that someone is slowly losing their self-worth. For instance, if it was someone who was bubbly, someone who used to participate in social gatherings or in any activities that are there in their communities, all of a sudden they are withdrawn. They are no longer interested in those services. They are no longer interested in the habits that they usually do. Or if someone was active in doing exercises, all of a sudden they prefer to lock themselves in the house. So you'll be able to pick the loss of interest in activities that were usually a delight to them. And then with others, you realize that they lose confidence, even if they might engage in these activities, but somehow they lose their confidence in attaining those activities because their self-worth has been crushed by the verbal and emotional abuse that they have incurred. They've been told that they're useless, they're worthless, they will amount to nothing. So as much as they might try to put effort, but their self-esteem is crushed, their confidence is shaken. They are just there to tick the boxes, whether it's at work or it's at school. And for some, it even goes deeper. And you realize that someone rather prefers to spend the whole day sleeping and not even engaging in any activity because now they are entering into the depressive state of the signs and symptoms. And then, for instance, maybe with school kids, those that are subjected to gender-based violence, they lose their concentration in class. They no longer participate as they used to be, and even their academic performance is equally affected. All of a sudden, they drop their marks in performance, and they become those kids that are no longer in the forefront of being participative in classes. So it really cuts across different dynamics. I'm just trying to cite some of the signs and symptoms that may literally come into my mind, but otherwise the scars are basically deeper than the physical. They can be emotional and they can be unseen and have long-lasting effects to an extent that someone might end up experiencing issues of post-traumatic stress disorder or being diagnosed with depression because they cannot go back to their normal functioning that they used to do.
Sure. Hendriettah, that's quite the list there. But I do thank you for extensively ironing out what some of the signs and symptoms are. The voice there of Chief Social Worker at Lifeline Mental and Emotional Health for All, Hendriettah Khupe, joining us this evening. If you want to send through your questions, do find us on WhatsApp, +27 83288 6684. It is 16 minutes in actual fact before the top of the new hour. If you've just joined us, we are still in conversation with Chief Social Worker at Lifeline Mental and Emotional Health for All. That is Hendriettah Khupe joining us. And we're looking at the reality of the symptoms, the experiences of GBV survivors, and essentially just diagnosing and looking at the state of health. And that is mental health, if anything. And so we are just breaking down we broke down some of the signs and the symptoms, but we're now going to be talking about the Stop Gender Violence Helpline and how this is a South African national project. Hendriettah, tell us more.
Okay, so Lifeline runs various projects within it as an organization, as a non-governmental organization. So we have projects that are funded by different governmental departments, and one of it is the Stop Gender Violence Helpline, which is funded by both the Gauteng Department of Social Development and the National Department of Social Development. So this is our toll-free helpline that is available 24/7, 365 days in a year, and it's toll-free on all mobile networks that we have in South Africa. So it was designated initially at its conception, it was called women abuse, because abuse by then was rife only towards women and children. However, because we are living in communities that are dynamic and change and incur different social ills, with time it transformed to being called the Stop Gender Violence Helpline, because we realized that as much as it was was designated for women and children to call in. However, we started having males who were equally calling in that line and literally opening up and saying that they are equally victims of violence as well. And then that's when we transformed the line and we ensured that it caters for all types of gender stereotypes. And then now it's called the Stop Gender Violence Helpline because any gender is allowed to call through that helpline and will be assured of getting assistance. So our line operates every day of the week, every time of the hour of the clock. So festive season, holidays, we are there at your service. So on this line, we are giving information about gender-based violence. We are offering free telephonic counseling service on victims of gender-based violence, and we also do referrals to shelters and other places, maybe for skills development in case there is need for that service for our victims. Therefore, it's a line that has been in operation for more than 20 years now, and it has continually been a line that has proved that as much as there is so much work that is being done around gender-based violence, but however, there is still a lot of need of support services that is being that should be rendered to our victims that are calling through. So it's our major type of intervention that we're offering to our communities through telephonic counseling services. However, allow me to also say, as much as that is one of our major interventions that defines us as an organization. However, as I've already indicated, that we are living in a society which is very progressive and dynamic. We have services that equally substantiate on the service that we are rendering. We also have face-to-face counseling services over and above the telephonic counseling that we offer, because sometimes we get callers who we can communicate with or counsel on the line, but they feel they further need face-to-face intervention, or they are comfortable with rather face-to-face than telephonic services. So we do book such clients in, and they come in to receive such a service as they prefer. And especially when you look at our young generation that we are having, it's an AI generation that is not interested so much in calling, but they prefer to communicate through WhatsApp and through emails as well. So we also offer the same services of gender-based violence support through WhatsApp services, where we have a line that is solely responsible for WhatsApp counseling services, and also an email that is equally dedicated for that service, to also cater for corporates as well, for our victims who are in corporate spaces who will want to debrief as they go along with their day-to-day work. So we have so much emails that are coming through during the day, as during the 9-to-5 space when people are at work, but at least they have a platform where they can equally cough out whatever issues that they are that they are going through, and they are able to get the immediate support that they're looking for at that time.
Hendriettah, just as a parting shot, or rather even a summation of our conversation, for those who have heard you and they understand that they need help, how do they reach out? Is there a centralized platform, such as a website, where they can get all of these details, be it the email address, the WhatsApp line, the caller's line? If you could just redirect us, please.
Yes, we do have. For our toll-free helpline, maybe let me start there. For our toll-free helpline, our number is 0800 150 150. our toll-free helpline. So they can be able to access us on that line and be able to get our services there. Then we also have a website as well. If you can go to Facebook, and at Lifeline South Africa, you'll be able to find us, because we are Lifeline South Africa, but however, we have a lot of centers regionally and nationwide that are affiliated to us. So if you can go to our website, www.lifelinesa.org.za, you'll be able to get all our information there, including all our centers that are affiliated and the other different projects that we're rendering that were not part of this conversation on this channel.
Absolutely. Hendriettah, this has been an absolute pleasure. We commend the work that you and, of course, your council and institution are doing, and we can only hope that you change the course of history through the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me as well.
The voice there of the Chief Social Worker at Lifeline Mental and Emotional Health for All. That is Hendriettah Khupe joining us this evening. It is 52 after 10 p.m. Central Africa time. If you've just joined us, welcome to African Diaries. Shane and Ndikumana keeping you company. We get into some music and then we'll tackle the second hour. I'd love to hear from you, though. How do you think that we can proactively support those who we know need the support when it comes to GBV? When it comes to GBV, the experiences thereof, the aftermath. Perhaps you were a bystander, a loved one, exposed to this level of trauma. How do you think we can counsel? What's your thought? What's your take? Find us on WhatsApp, +278 288 6684.
African Diaries, weekdays, 10 till midnight.